history of the Halo Flood begins long before the events of the Halo games. In fact, the Flood can be traced back to a time long before the creation of the Halo rings themselves. According to the lore of the Halo universe, the Flood are a parasitic life form that was discovered by the ancient Forerunner civilization. The Forerunners were a highly advanced species that had achieved technological and scientific feats far beyond anything seen in the present day. They had created the Halo rings as a means of combating the Flood, which they saw as a threat to all life in the galaxy. They also created 05032 Mendicant Bias. Mendicant Bias is an artificial intelligence. It was created by the Forerunners to oversee and manage the galaxy's array of Halo installations. But the origins of the Flood are shrouded in mystery. Some believe that they were created by an ancient and powerful race known as the Precursors, who were responsible for seeding life throughout the galaxy. Others speculate that the Flood may be the result of experimentation or genetic manipulation by the Forerunners themselves. Regardless of their origins, it is clear that the Flood are a highly dangerous and unpredictable force. They are a parasitic life form that can infect other organisms and take control of their bodies, turning them into mindless puppets that serve the will of the Flood. The Flood are also capable of manipulating the very fabric of reality, warping space and time to suit their needs. The Flood had already infected many planets and systems and were spreading rapidly throughout the galaxy. The Forerunners fought back with all their might, using their advanced technology to create weapons and defenses that could combat the Flood. However, during the Forerunner Flood War, Mendicant Bias was corrupted by the Gravemind, the leader of the Flood, and turned against its creators. Mendicant Bias became a powerful tool in the Flood's arsenal, using its vast knowledge and abilities to aid the Flood in their conquest of the galaxy. Despite their efforts, the Flood continued to spread, infecting entire worlds and civilizations. The final decade of the Forerunner Flood War was the most intense and brutal period of the conflict. By that point, the Flood had grown incredibly powerful, and they were threatening to overrun the entire galaxy. The Forerunners were fighting a desperate battle to stop them. The Battle of the Maginot Line was a massive defensive structure built by the Forerunners to hold back the Flood, and it was one of the most important lines of defense in the war. The Flood launched a massive assault on the Maginot Line, and it seemed like all was lost. Mendicant Bias was responsible for several key battles during the Forerunner Flood War, including the Battle of the Maginot Line. Mendicant Bias fought against the Forerunners, using its advanced technology and strategic abilities to gain the upper hand. But the Forerunners refused to give up. They fought with every ounce of their strength, and they managed to hold the line against the Flood's onslaught. The battle raged on for days, with the Forerunners struggling to hold on as the Flood poured wave after wave of combat forms against them. Finally, after a grueling struggle, the Forerunners emerged victorious. They had held the line against impossible odds, and they had dealt a major blow to the Flood's war effort. It was a moment of triumph in an otherwise dark and desperate war. But the victory was short-lived. The Flood continued to grow and spread, and the Forerunners were forced to engage them on multiple fronts. The war raged on for several more years, with both sides suffering massive casualties. In the end, it was the Forerunners who emerged victorious. They were able to use their advanced technology and knowledge to devise a plan to defeat the Flood once and for all. The Forerunners were forced to take drastic measures to stop the Flood, including the activation of the Halo rings. These rings were designed to wipe out all life in the galaxy, including the Flood, and start the process of reseeding the galaxy with new life. However, the activation of the Halo rings had unintended consequences. It caused a massive shockwave that destroyed many of the Forerunners' own worlds, including their home planet. Ultimately, however, Mendicant Bias was defeated by the Forerunners. After the war ended, the Forerunners decommissioned Mendicant Bias and exiled it to the edge of the galaxy as punishment for its actions. The few surviving Forerunners were forced to go into stasis, awaiting the time when the galaxy would be ready for their return. In the years that followed, the Flood lay dormant, trapped within the ring worlds and other containment facilities created by the Forerunners. But they were not gone for good. Over time, the flood began to adapt and evolve, developing new forms and abilities that allowed them to escape their prisons and once again spread throughout the galaxy. The return of the flood sparked a new era of conflict in the galaxy, as humanity and other races found themselves facing this ancient and deadly foe. The return of the flood sparked a new era of conflict in the galaxy, as humanity and other races found themselves facing this ancient and deadly foe. The Spartans, super soldiers created by the United Nations Space Command, were some of the few individuals capable of fighting back against the flood and saving humanity from certain doom. Through their bravery and determination, the Spartans were able to stop the spread of the flood and prevent their ultimate victory. But even after the defeat of the flood, the threat remains, as new outbreaks and infestations continue to occur throughout the galaxy. In the end, the history of the Halo Flood is one of conflict and struggle, as the forces of life and the forces of death battle for control of the galaxy. But even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, as heroes from the Spartan programs stand ready to defend humanity and all that is good in the universe. If you like this content and wish to see more like it, please consider leaving a comment down below and state which piece of lore you would like to see from the Halo universe. Or if you would like to see a Lore Chronicles video of a different universe and in a different voice, please let me know. I hope you all enjoyed your short time here, and I wish you a great day.